Okay, we'll move right along, introducing to the stage here at the Natural Fudge Company, Don Hepner. Come right up, would you, Hep? Let's do it.
The words for the text tonight are, old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to get her poor dog a bone. But when she got there, the cupboard was bare, and so the poor dog had none. These beautiful words, friends, carry with them warm meaning, and I propose tonight to analyze them for you, lofty though they may be, to our everyday life. Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to get her poor dog a bone. At first, then, Mother Hubbard then was old, and there being no mention of others, we may assume she was alone. A mere, lonely widow. But friends, did she despair? Did she gnash her teeth? Or read a novel? No, she went to the cupboard. She went to the cupboard to get her poor dog a bone. She solely and merely went to the cupboard. And when she got there, the cupboard was bare, and so the poor dog had none. When she got there, and brethren, you see the beauty of perseverance, you see the beauty of doing right. She got there with no leaning to the left or to the right, with no slip-ins or slidings, with beautiful simplicity, we are told, she got there. And so the poor dog had none. And at that point our information ceases, but do we not know enough? Are we not cognizant of sufficient bone by the Hubbard, the dog, and the bone that was not there? Now suffice it for us to glean from this story the material frailty of human nature. Brethren, observe the three morals of my story. Lesson number one, always have more than one cupboard in the house. Lesson number two, to beware of keeping dogs that are fond of bones. And lesson number three, avoid being an old mother. I thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Don Hepner, not Hefner. If it were Hefner, I'd probably be over at the Playboy Mansion right now, wallowing in some bunny fur or something like that. The problem I have, though, every time I get up here to talk is that I don't know what to talk about, you see. I'm not gay, I'm not black, and I'm not Jewish. But you know something, my childhood was different. I'll tell you why it was different. See, I was the only kid in the neighborhood who peed the bed each and every night. And that was an embarrassment, and it was a disappointment. I'll tell you why it was an embarrassment. Because one night I went over to my buddy's house to spend the night. Of course, I didn't tell him that I peed the bed. So he didn't tell me that there was an electric sheet on the bed. And I shorted out the electricity, and I singed all the hair off his butt. And you know something? There were no girls in my neighborhood, so I didn't have any opportunity to play doctor. So I spent all my time in the library, reading Shakespeare and looking at National Geographic magazines. And you know something? The library was where I fell in love for the first time. It's true. It happened one beautiful summer evening. I was on the third floor, sliding down the banister, hanging on with one hand and the other, a fold-out from National Geographic magazine. Now, I want to tell some of you guys that for us older guys, National Geographic magazine, well, that was the father of Playboy, Penthouse, Chic Club, all those great magazines. I'll tell you why. See, it gave us an opportunity to get a look at some real titty. It's true, you know, and I saw some real titty just the other night. I was at this party. There were about 20 of us sitting around. We didn't know each other. We were getting stoned, getting high. Ooh, I'll take a hit off of that. Ooh, I'll give you a hit off of that. Ooh, a hit off this. And sitting right down there was a young lady. She had a newly born baby. The baby began to cry. The next thing I knew, she's breastfeeding the kid. Now, I'd like to say this right now. Anytime I see somebody out in public breastfeeding, it always embarrasses me. And people always say things like, well, I don't know what's wrong with you, Hep. You know, it's a natural, it's a beautiful, it's a wonderful thing. Well, it may be, but for me, it's an embarrassment because, quite frankly, I don't know where to look. And I think it embarrassed everybody there because the conversation sort of died down. I noticed people were kind of talking through their shoes. You know, I've had these Floorshimes now for 10 years. I had them resold 6 times. And so the conversation stopped. The baby quit nursing and fell asleep, and I heard the mother turn to the baby and say, do you want any more of this before I put it away? And I heard myself say, hey, pass it around. We'll all take a hit off of it. These are all set up, folks. They're all set up. You know, so I just finished an experiment out at UCLA Medical Center. It was a male contraceptive study. Well, I didn't hear any round of applause, but I'm going to tell you why I did it anyway. You see, I believe it's the male's place to take full responsibility for birth control. Thank you very much. Because, quite frankly, I don't trust anybody. Now, for men, of course, there are only 2 types of contraception. The first type, of course, is vasectomy, which is a euphemism for being spayed. Hey, you and your dog have something in common. You've both been spayed. And, of course, the second type of contraception is, of course, prophylactics, or rubbers, or condoms, if you like. I like the name condom, because every time I go downtown L.A., there's a big sign down there. If you lived here, you'd be home now. Condoms. $287,000. And I go, ooh, that must be one hell of a rubber. Probably a designer condom. And why not? They got designer clothes, designer chocolate. Why not designer condoms? And I can just see the spring fashion show right now. The runway all lighted up. Spotlights oscillating back and forth. Music playing. Drum roll. Brum. Mesdames et messieurs, comment allez-vous? We are proud to present at this time to you the 1985 spring collection of Pierre Cardin condos. And about that time, 12 Adonises come walking down the runway wearing an erection and a Pierre Cardin condom, sculptured, shaped, and toned like the men who will wear them. And you know, every time I go to buy rubbers, I'm always embarrassed because there's always a woman selling them. And one time I walked into the lady and I said, hey, I'd like to buy some rubbers. And she went, are you shitting me? Here's a bottle of rubber cement, go paint one on. And then one day I walked in there and there was a beautiful woman there. And she looked at me and she said, can I help you? Listen, is there a male clerk or a male pharmacist around? No, I'm sorry, they're all out to lunch. Well, would you give me 3 prophylactics? Pardon me? Would you give me 3 prophylactics? Oh, sure. Want to try one on? No, one size fits all. She put it in a little sack and sent me down to the cash register at the front of the drugstore. And I waited in line. I got up to the lady doing the cashiering, and of course she didn't know the price. And she got on the little microphone and said, Betty, how much for the prophylactics? And from the back, Betty yelled, the rubbers are $1.85. And then one time there was a pharmacist there, and I said, I'd like to have some rubbers. And he said, you want a dozen? Want a gross? And I said, no, just give me 3 of the green steel wool lined ones. I'm trying to quit. So I did this experiment out at UCLA Medical Center. It was really a pretty neat thing. I would go out there and I'd spend 24 hours there. And while I was there, they'd treat me like a prince and feed me like a king. And all I had to do, of course, was give them a little blood. And then I'd have to take the male contraception. And it was, it is, and it will be when it gets out on the market. A nasal spray. It's true. It'll sort of change preliminary sex. Just a moment, I'll be right with you. So I snorted all this stuff for about 120 times. And then the nurse came in and she asked me for something they didn't tell me they're going to ask me for. The nurse came in and she had a little vial and she said, "Don, we want a semen sample." Well, I must tell you, that knocked my dick in the dirt. Because I'll tell you something, I have a difficult time making love to somebody when I don't want to, but when I have to make love to myself when I don't want to, it's very difficult. And do you know something? There wasn't a library, a third-floor banister, or a National Geographic in that whole hospital. Well, the results were 100% effective. Oh, there are a few side effects. You put on 50 pounds, you lose your hair, and you have to start wearing a bra. So when you look like that, of course, nobody's going to fuck you. It's at this point in my life where I have all the setups. I have to decide right now what I'm going to do when I grow old. Am I going to grow old as a doctor, a lawyer, a cawdor? All those professions made available to me. So I figured I'd probably grow old as a stand-up comic doing the same material. So here I am as a 93-year-old comic. I don't know what to talk about. I'm not gay, black, or Jewish. As a kid, I used to pee on Boy Scouts. Every time I go by a library, I get a hard-on. I went to a party the other night, and there was a woman there with a kid, and I asked her if I could hit it. I just finished an experiment at Harvard. I had to snort designer rubbers. Right now, I'd like to do an impression for you, if you don't mind. One of my favorite people, Albert Einstein. I got this theory about relatives, you know. Albert Einstein. Of course, you heard about President Reagan, you know. He had some of his nose removed because of cancer. Just proves one thing, cancer is contagious, because I know where he's had his head for the last 5 years. There's been a big controversy, of course, on the Classic and the New Coke. Personally, I've always been addicted to the Classic. Well, I want to thank you very much for putting up with all the setups and everything. My name's Don Hepner. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Don Hepner.
That's Don Hepner. What a guy.